Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got something a little bit different for you all. It's a compilation of old videos regarding the Am I Overreacting? So if you're not fully caught up on these, this is a great way for you to get caught up. And don't forget, if you drink Gamer Subs, to use code Oz at checkout. They do have caffeine-free variations of their powders, as well as a I hate anime section for those of you who don't want degenerate I should also add that every purchase made does directly support me and helps keep this channel going. That being said, we're jumping right into it. This one's brought to us by Top Blackberry 9351. Am I overreacting for thinking about breaking up with my boyfriend over his Reddit comments? I'm currently 24 years old and dating an older man, 43. I know we have a significant age gap, but I thought dating an older man would be better than dating assholes around my age. We've been together for at least 3 years now, and they've been wonderful, or so I thought. We both use Reddit, and somehow I came across his profile. I shouldn't have looked, so maybe this is my punishment, but I was just so curious. I began to read his comments and came across some that left me in tears. One of the comments was talking about how my insecurities and anxiety about my weight during intimacy ruined it for him. Now, I know I'm fat, and yes, I do worry about how unflattering I look, but I try my best to satisfy that man. I give him oral, let him finish anywhere, and other explicit things just so he can be happy, but he seems to dislike initiating because of me. Another comment I came across was him complimenting a woman on a dress and how much men would want her because of it. He described how the dress accentuated her features and how men would all find ways to satisfy her. This would made me cry the most because comments throughout that post were men lusting over her. I felt so insecure even though I couldn't see the original post. Reading through what he said about another woman made me so sad. There was also another comment he made about an ex he had who was a dull individual, but what made her worth it was her virgin status. He emphasized her virginity because it's something no other woman could ever give him. The pleasure of deflowering. This just made me feel horrible about myself. I lost my innocence before I ever met him, but I'm left wondering if he only approached me because he thought I was one. I mean, I look shy and everyone around me thinks I'm a good girl, but I'm not. Overall, he's a good man. He treats me well and he doesn't abuse me. He cares more about me than my own family. He's my first good and serious relationship, but now I'm having second thoughts and feel he's only with me out of desperation and loneliness, since he isn't getting any younger. What if he doesn't love me like he says? What if he wishes for someone better? I have all these questions running through my head and my heart hurts. I feel deceived. Okay, a couple of things. It's pretty sad that the bar is as low as he doesn't abuse me, so he's all right. That's pretty depressing. From my experience, if they're gossiping about you on Reddit of all places, they're gossiping to other people in your life as well. So here's a hot take of mine. While cringe, him thirsty posting is fine, unless there were prior boundaries set in the relationship where, hey, if you're gawking at another woman online or, in person, I find that to be cheating. Unless that boundary was set, I do think that is fine. It is gross, but it's fine to thirsty post. However, that being paired with the fact that there are previous comments of him actively shit-talking his partner and how it makes him feel less intimate, then he's off thirsty posting, that is a major baseball bat to the shins when it comes to your self-esteem. That's kind of fucked, man. And I don't even want to touch the pleasure of deflowering comments. Those are just equally gross, and that definitely leads me into a lot of questions about his intentions. Because it does sound like he's seeking out younger women specifically so that he can have the pleasure of deflowering them, because it's something that can only be given once, as he stated it, which is gross. And to tie this all off with a personal thing, now, throwing my hat in once more, just because there's an age gap doesn't mean that they're more mature and are able to stand out and be a better fit because they're not like the assholes in your age range. Chances are, they're just really good at hiding their nature. And you being so young when you two first met doesn't help because you're kind of blind to those red flags. That's... Trust me on that one. This one's brought to us by Alone Resort 5328. Am I overreacting at my friend trying to kiss me? I met my friend about a year ago and I had romantic intentions, which I did let her know. 3 months in, I tried to kiss her, but she refused. She even got upset. I apologized and moved on. We discussed that this was a boundary for her and that she takes things really slow, and that I should have asked, and that we should have a talk. We had a talk shortly afterwards, and we agreed that we are just friends. We do regularly hang out. Recently, I told her I've been going on dates, and the last time we hung out, we were at a gorgeous view while out on a hike. We sat down and had some food. She then tried to kiss me. I didn't let her and asked her what she was doing. She got embarrassed and said sorry, and it was an awkward hike and drive back, and we didn't talk much. We haven't talked about it yet, but I'm kind of upset. One, she pretty much did the same thing I tried to do, and she got upset by it, so I'm upset at the hypocritical behavior. She did this after I told her I've been on other dates, and even though I don't have a girlfriend at this time, I'm really annoyed that it seems like she's only doing this just because I'm seeing others. Am I overreacting? I plan to have a talk with her, and I'm feeling confused. Honestly, it sounds like you're not doing much of reacting at all. Talk with her for starters, like that's an obvious thing. She said she likes to take things slow. You started going on other dates. She probably did feel like, she was losing you and wanted to, be like, hey, I'm still interested in you as a partner. And that's why she, leaned in for a kiss. You guys went on a romantic hike. Well, not romantic, but from your definition of it, I mean, that could come off as being a romantic hike. And she probably wanted to, be pleasantly surprising towards you about it. And, ooh, buddy, chances are when she said she likes to take things slow, she probably meant really, really slow. And then when you started going on other dates, that's probably when she realized she had to speed things up a little bit and maybe exit the comfort zone. Have a talk with her. It could also be that she just wants to string you along. You never really know, but I don't know. I think this is one I'm also going to be really, curious hearing from the audience on, especially, those of the opposite sex who probably know a bit more. I mean, personally, I'm of the mindset they just got to talk things out, but this could just be someone who's being a bit of a jealous ne'er-do-well and trying to kind of rope him back in and keep him hanging by threads. But I think I defer to the comment section for this one and see what you all think. I just think he needs to have a conversation with her and be honest about what his intentions are. This one's brought to us by Toast Socks. Am I overreacting for not liking my birthday dinner? So today was my 20th birthday and I kind of hated it. I don't like to do a big thing about my birthday, so it's usually just me at home with my mom and dog, and she'll get me an Oreo cake from a bakery I like. Earlier today, she asked me if I wanted anything special for dinner, so I told her biryani from this one restaurant she ordered from before. I really liked it, but she didn't, so we've never gotten it again. I've asked for the name before, but she didn't tell me, so I've never been able to just order it for myself. I told her that if she couldn't get that, then just Pizza Hut buffalo wings. I was kind of excited about the dinner since I haven't had either of these things in a while, and I had to work today. Plus, there were no seats available on the bus, so I was looking for something to cheer me up. But instead of the food I wanted, she got me this lamb and chicken wrap with white rice on the side from a place she likes. I didn't really like the food, so I didn't eat much of it, but I didn't complain about it. She asked if I had a bad day because I was quiet. I said no, and she asked if I didn't like the food, and I said it's okay. I said thanks for the food, and then I put my food away. She kept asking if I was okay because I usually eat most of my food, and I said I was fine, but she wouldn't stop asking, so I said that I didn't like it because it's not what I wanted. She said that what I said hurt her feelings, and she tried her best. Then she said that I was being really rude and went into the living room. I don't know if it's not that deep or if I'm valid. I mean, at the end of the day, it was your birthday dinner. You had a very specific request. Your mother ignored it, and she instead went for something that she wanted. So, not really a birthday dinner at that point. It's kind of just a dinner for her. And yeah, I think you had every right to be upset. And, from the sounds of it, if what was portrayed is the accurate retelling of events, you being polite about it and not really commenting on it and just kind of dealing with what you were given is kind of the right choice. And she pushed on and you gave her an honest answer, so she can't really be upset that she pushed your buttons and you gave the actual answer. I also personally understand not really wanting to celebrate birthdays. I mean, for me, I was always the kid that wanted donuts instead of cake. I hated large family gatherings. I never really did anything with friends. I have bad luck on my birthdays, so I always kind of just keep it low and just sort of let it pass as another day with some few extra perks. But that's pretty much all I see it as. So I definitely understand the sentiment. You wanted a specific kind of dish for your birthday and you didn't get it. That was probably one of the few things you actually asked for and it was disregarded. This one's brought to us by Big Graze 93. Am I overreacting that my ex wants to move to Florida and take our 10-year-old daughter? No, already no. Hey everyone, I, 30 male, am feeling incredibly defeated right now, and I just need to be heard. My ex dropped a bombshell on me. She wants to move to Florida within the next couple of months and take our 10-year-old daughter with her. I'm heartbroken and frustrated. Florida is so far away from where we currently live, and it would mean significantly less time with my daughter. Plus, uprooting her from school, friends, and everything she knows seems just so unfair. I feel like I'm being backed into a corner with no say in the matter. I want what's best for my daughter, but it's tearing me apart to think of her so far away. Has anyone been through something similar? Any advice or words of support would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for letting me be heard. Update, her mother, 28 female, is going to live with her sister that lives in Florida while she's being deployed for a year and a half. We have no custody agreements, nor have the courts ever been involved since we separated. I understand that there are a lot of things I should have done but didn't do when we broke up. I have always helped in many ways. I've always helped with money via Cash App for things my daughter has needed that I've sent to her mother. I thought keeping the courts out of the picture was the right thing to do, considering we have always been on great terms and helped each other out when it came to our daughter. It's truly been a back and forth deal. Seemingly now, I feel like it wasn't in my best interest to not involve the courts when we separated. I'm an extremely active father and very much care about my daughter's well-being in every aspect. Okay, as a child whose parents were divorced at the age of 4, who actually stuck through and kept each other on tolerable differences so they could get me through school and not have to move around a ton, that's important for a child. There's a reason, and no offense by this, that military kids aren't well adjusted when they're stuck moving from state to state to school because they can't build an active friend group. It is very important that your daughter has an area and environment that is stable for her to be in. If your ex keeps talking nonsense to move to Florida, then give her 2 options. 1, your daughter stays in the state and she can move to Florida and do what she wants and she can be the one that comes up to visit. Or 2, you'll get the courts involved. Your daughter's life should not be uprooted for a random spew-of-the-moment decision from her mother. Also, for the love of God, print out your Cash App receipts and take screenshots and do everything that you possibly can to make sure that you have an itemized list of everything that you've done to help her out with your daughter. That'll be important if this ever goes to court. Trust me. You gotta put your foot down, like 100%. You have to tell her that if she's going to move to Florida and take your daughter, that you're going to get the courts involved. You have to do that. It's gonna suck, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but the threat alone should keep it from actually happening. But remember, the one thing that makes a threat plausible is the fact that you'll follow through with it. So if you're gonna threaten family court, make sure you at least have your ducks in a row to go through with it, because you gotta have teeth with that. This one's brought to us by Catco805. Am I overreacting for wanting to quit my job after I caught my coworker taking pictures of me? I, 25 female, started what I thought was my dream job in December. It was honestly amazing up until about a month ago when I switched to working more closely with one coworker, Janice, in her 50s, female. She very quickly started having problems with the job I was doing. Not cleaning something thoroughly enough, not maintaining our assigned area to her standards, which she never communicated to me, by the way, as well as some miscommunications, such as when she told me she was going to take care of a task and I didn't realize that she wanted me to help her finish up after I was done with what I was doing. Janice never directly told me she was upset. I just got pulled into a meeting with my boss one day and he told me all of these things. I was a bit blindsided by this, as I thought I was doing a good job up until that point, and she had given me no indication that she was unhappy with the job that I was doing. To be fair, a lot of these concerns were legitimate criticisms which I had done my best to learn from and not repeat those mistakes. However, Janice has since started reporting every imperfection in my work to my boss. Some of these issues have included an area getting dirty again faster than she thought it should after I cleaned it. I asked her if it was good when I was done and she said it was. A patch of dust left on a table after I wiped it, a smudge on the fridge, etc. To be clear, I am constantly checking in with her whenever we are working together, asking if I had done things correctly, if she would rather I do things differently, and she has always told me I was good. Last week I was working with one of my coworkers, Carl, who was fairly new but has been there slightly longer than I have, on a large project that involved heavy lifting outside on a hot day. We live in Florida, so it's already pretty warm here. After working for an hour or so, we took a breather to go to the bathroom and drink some water. This was during one of the allotted break times that we were entitled to and couldn't have taken us longer than 15 minutes. While drinking water and making small talk, we noticed Janice sticking her head around the corner, hold up her phone, and take a picture of us. She did this again about 5 minutes later, after which we decided to cut the break short. She wasn't even trying to hide it or anything. It was like she waited for us to stop working to take a picture of us slacking off. I just don't know what to do anymore. I'm so terrified to stop working for even a second. I'm scared to go to the bathroom except on my lunch break. Yes, there's one bathroom break during an 8-hour shift. Whenever I'm left to work in private, I just break down in tears because I'm so stressed by the pressure to be perfect. Some of my other coworkers have started treating me differently than before because they know Janice doesn't like me. Carl reported the picture taking to our boss, but I don't think anything will come of it because Janice has been here for so long, she's practically untouchable. I've started applying to some other jobs, but leaving this job would be a huge step backwards in my career and would also mean a pay cut that I haven't budgeted for. I guess I just want to know if all of these are just normal bumps in the road that will eventually pass, or if I should continue making an exit plan. Am I overreacting here? Not in the slightest. Janice has it out for you, so you gotta have it out for Janice, alright? For some god-awful reason, it seems that Janice is threatened by you and does not want you moving up the ladder. If you don't have HR, go to your boss, and if you do have HR, this conversation still applies. Go to them and be like, can I create a checkoff sign-off form that requires Janice to provide her signature approving the work that you do? Therefore, there is a signature that shows that Janice in that moment had approved of the work that you had done. So if she goes back on the signature, then you have, well, the argument of if you approved in the moment, how come you're now bringing this up and opposing the document that you signed stating that you agreed with it? And if she refuses to sign it, then you can get direct answers on her standards. But if she refuses to sign in general, you can then take it to the boss and say, hey, I need you to inspect this yourself because Janice is refusing to give me any kind of reasoning for why she won't sign off on this. It gives you more power and bargaining chips to make sure that your job is secure and you won't be in a position when your finances get screwed over by Janice. I'd also be curious to see what everyone else thinks about what should be done about Janice here. Keep in mind, Florida's a two-party consent state, which means that she can't just record Janice to get it done that way, because she would need Janice's approval. So, keep that in mind. But anyways, let me know what y'all think. Am I overreacting about my neighbors driving through my front yard? Yesterday I was upstairs and at home relaxing in my office, as I usually do on my days off. I was a bit hungry, so I hit up DoorDash and opened up my blinds so I could watch out for when they deliver. 5 minutes later, I look over and I'm looking directly into the back of an F-250's truck bed. I was sort of in shock because at the angle I was seeing it meant it was directly over the top of the concrete pathway to my front door. I figured it was a one-time thing and not to worry about it further until I saw their other truck, a Ford Ranger, drive through it in the exact same spot. I ended up peeping a bit and watching them, and I saw them pull from the alleyway behind my house to the exit to the alleyway and watched them back into my front yard from the top left corner and backed up all the way into the bottom right corner of my front yard into their yard. I told my partner and roommate what I saw, but apparently I was the only one who saw it as sort of an issue. There are now tire tracks through my yard and I don't really know if I'm overreacting or not. How would you guys feel? Yeah, I think you're valid in overreacting, and it gets complicated because you don't want to confront your neighbors about it because they're going to get pissy with you and call you entitled or some shit. I mean, for me, I would know that I would be pissed if anyone was backing up into my yard, and I know this because I had an ex-roommate who used to do this all the time. They wouldn't take the extra 3 seconds to just properly pull out of the driveway and would instead let both of their tires on their passenger side roll over the grass. So now, a year later, I found out that after them doing that for almost 2.5 years, I have around $1,000 worth of sprinkler damage that I have to repair. So that's pretty cool. So with that being noted, yeah, you're totally valid with being upset with them backing into your yard because you don't know if they might crack the concrete, damage the grass, or leave behind black tire treads that require a pressure washer to remove. So yeah, their actions will cost you time and effort. So you could go the route of trying to talk to them, but if they're unreceptive, confrontational, or even just bad actors in general and extremely aggressive when it comes to this, then, hypothetically, you do some yard work that ends with a sharp stake sticking out of your pathway. It's an accident, and if they back up through your pathway once more and their tire clips that, well, they're on your pathway, on your property, with a flat tire. There's no excuse, and they won't do it again. And if they do get a big fucking rock, just keep escalating the items that you're putting on your property in your yard to get them to stop, especially if they did not listen to reason and just a simple conversation. This one's brought to us by... Am I overreacting for thinking there's more going on between my sister and husband? So my husband and I, both 32, have been together for over 10 years and have 3 kids. My sister, 28 female, and I have a decent relationship. We aren't super close, but we get along okay. Recently, over the past 2 years, my sister went through a horrible divorce. She found out her husband was having an affair with one of their mutual friends for months. They divorced last year and she had to sell their house. She's now living with my parents. Ever since the divorce, she's been coming around here and there, and I've noticed that sometimes when she talks, she tends to look at my husband more. I may be overthinking things on my end. Once she made me and my husband drinks, and for some reason she only asked him if he liked his drink, but didn't ask me, even though I was right next to him. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Last night, she was over and we had a bunch of Amazon packages delivered. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so it's hard for me to be able to shop comfortably with all 3 kids. Containing things that were needed around the house, my husband then proceeded to vent to my sister about all these packages and kind of joke with my sister that I probably had no idea what a lot of these boxes contained. My sister then said, "Yeah, I have an Amazon account, but I don't really order that many things." My husband then said, "Wow, that's really good." And then he looked at me. And I was like, "Okay, good for you. Thumbs up," to my sister. The last thing that kind of made me suspicious, but I don't know, is that I've noticed my husband being on Instagram a lot more as of late. And a few weeks ago, I went to his messages, I clicked on the part to send out a message, and my sister was the first one to pop up as the person to message. I even continued to check over the next few days, and she kept being the first name, with my name right under hers. I've confronted my husband about all these things, and he insists there is nothing going on between him and my sister. Regarding the whole Instagram incident, he said that was pure coincidence, that he has no control over that, and then he went and blocked her. He said so her name would no longer appear as first. I don't know, Reddit. I acknowledge that I tend to overthink things, but this has been bugging me a lot lately. Let me know, am I overreacting? Are my sister and husband being shady? Thanks in advance. I would say overthinking things 100%. For your husband, he's on Instagram more. Maybe he discovered Instagram Reels and is on Helldivers Reels. Who knows? He could just kind of be, going down the meme rabbit hole. You never really know. And that's probably a conversation to have. Is just, hey, are you on Reels or what's going on? What are you looking at on Instagram? It's good that you've already had a conversation with him about this, and the fact that he was willing to instantly go and block your sister to make you feel comfortable is already a green flag right there. If he unblocks her, though, that's a red flag. Or until you and your sister have a conversation, you can comfortably verify that there is nothing between them and essentially, have your husband unblock her, so that way there's not a weird rift of your sister now asking questions of, why was I blocked? Now that does bring me to your sister. I think after your sister's divorce, she's probably just looking for adult friends and is, confiding within her sister to essentially give her the ability to have adult friendships after a messy divorce. Because, as you said, she was cheated on by a mutual friend of hers. She probably doesn't feel secure within her friend groups anymore and sees that security with you and your husband. So that might be more of a compliment. Your husband and sister might just be becoming close friends. And if he was willing to block her that quickly, I don't think there's anything romantic going on. Like with the drinks, for example, she probably only asked your husband because she wants his approval. She already has yours because you two are family. It doesn't matter if you hate her drinks or not. You can't really do anything about her being your sister. But, getting in with the husband and being friends with him helps secure those friendships for the longer term. I think your sister might just be lonely and looking for friend groups outside of, the group that her husband cheated on her with. I think that's really what this is boiling down to. G. Beja. I don't know if I said that right, that was an entire guess. My friend made our entire trip to Miami about male attention knowing I'm in a relationship, so I left halfway through. This is going to be long, thank you in advance for reading. A couple of days ago, I, 27 female, returned abruptly from a trip to Miami with a coworker/girlfriend of mine who's 25 female, of 1.5 years. I'm in a committed relationship and have been for 8 years while she is very much single. That's fine. We bond very well in other ways, and I always respected that she just does whatever she wants with whomever, whenever. We planned this trip together back in December, at my suggestion, because I've never been and my boyfriend wasn't interested in coming, and she's been a few times. I know the culture of Miami, but made it very clear to her this would be a girls' trip focused on the beach and food, where we could pay for things ourselves and not rely on the attention of men to enjoy our time. I considered that cheating. We also discussed extensively that this is my first girls' trip, so I planned all of our dinners and events because that's just how I am. For this reason, I assume she said she'd fly in a few days before I arrive because she wants to float around alone as a single girl. I respected that. So, I arrive when she's been in the city for 4 days already, and we meet at our Airbnb. She discusses the time that she's had with some local guys. One, who may potentially want us all to hang out again with some of his friends a couple days into our trip. I said sure because I'm new to the city and open to new experiences, and left it at that. Assuming she'd know to communicate I'm taken and this wouldn't be a double date or anything of the sort. We had a great first day at the beach and we're sitting at a bar in search of pina coladas when she starts acting flustered, reading a text and shaking her head in disapproval. She leans over to show me that apparently this guy asked for my IG, which is common here. She gave it to him and he responded, "My guys wouldn't be into her." I'm confused for a few reasons. Why do they need my IG when I'm taken and wouldn't be interested sexually or romantically? This isn't a double date. Why would she give it to them? Why is she showing me this? I don't consider myself a very unattractive woman, but I am black, whereas she is Latina and more tall and curvaceous. Not every man's type, and that's fine because I don't care. I have a man who adores me. She gets a lot more attention from men, so I understand this guy was just in her rotation and she wanted to show me how stupid his reply was, but I was honestly hurt. Not that he or his friends think that of me, but that my supposed good friend who I'm currently on vacation with would not only open me up for critique like that, but then show me while we're in the most superficial city in the country. I immediately asked her very calmly, "Why would you show me this? I don't care what they think." She apologized immediately and said she wouldn't give my IG anymore. The mood shift now was noticeable the next day, but I still wanted to enjoy our trip and try to compartmentalize the whole thing, but I won't lie, it shifted how I view her. I want to take the moment to mention that I've been in this city 2 nights so far, and each night she has left me at night to go be with a random local guy until the early morning. This crept into our day as she began sleeping in until afternoon and not being interested in drinking or anything because she already did that the night before. Friday night comes. I'm in good spirits. We're going out on the town for the first time so I can dance and enjoy some margaritas with my friend. Unfortunately, she meets a new random guy at the club and focuses on him for the remainder of our time there. I find some chicks to dance with in the meantime. 3 a.m. comes. The club is dead. I'm ready to go home. I explicitly ask her if she wants to stay with the guy because I already know. She hesitates but says, "No, let's go back to the Airbnb together." Then orders us an Uber. It's important I mention we're very drunk. While in the Uber, shared, she meets a guy who is clearly disinterested, but my friend is being obnoxiously and annoyingly drunk towards him. I mind my business because she's being drunk and we're almost back. After the guy gets out, she suddenly decides her night isn't over and tells the Uber to pull over so she can drunkenly get out. I'm staring at her in shock. 20 seconds later, the Uber driver tells me that she canceled the trip and I need to pay him cash to take me back to the Airbnb. I'm still stunned and hand over the money because I'm drunk and scared. He says, "Your friend is no good." I start crying and call my boyfriend, panicking. The Uber driver is a good man who takes me home and I realize I don't have my key when I get back. I'm a mess, crying, sitting in the lobby on the phone with my boyfriend who was worried and helpless. I had to wait an hour for her to Uber package her set of keys to me. She didn't even come back until 2 hours later. I felt so stupid and embarrassed that I was even in this situation. We had more things planned and paid for throughout Monday today, but I took the L on everything, including the cost of my original return flight and booked a new flight to leave later Saturday. We spoke later that day as I was packing my things and she was actually defensive. She said verbatim, "You shouldn't have told me you were cool with me doing me when you weren't." Girl, I thought you had enough self-awareness as a friend to decide when it's time to turn off the need for male attention when we're out together. Well, I was on my own out on the street too. I didn't mean to cancel on you, but I needed to call an Uber. It's not like you were stranded, helpless without a phone. I stared at her in shock. I just started crying again. As you can tell, this is my defense mechanism when I'm frustrated. I explained to her that she should be more conscientious of other people and that I'm not the friend for her. I tell her I won't tell anyone at work about this and to enjoy the rest of her trip here alone. I go back to my room to start packing and she comes in a few minutes later to apologize for ruining my first girl's trip and explains all her other friends were always cool with her doing that and she loves me for me and hopes we can still be friends later. She makes it a point to magically become self-aware that she relies too much on the attention of men. I tell her these are all lessons in life to learn and reject her request for a hug. I returned home Saturday and she has not reached out to me since then. I feel incredibly dumb. I spent a long time mulling over our friendship before this trip was booked and she promised me we would have fun together. I spent so much money. She could have just been honest with me about her intentions and saved me thousands. I definitely enjoyed some moments in the city, but found myself wishing I could enjoy it with my boyfriend instead of her. I need to figure out how to handle this for work because everyone we knew went on vacation together and it'll be noticeable when we aren't close anymore. But then again, I also don't care. Was I overreacting to this? Now that I'm home, I regret giving her the Airbnb and leaving. I should have just washed my hands and continued the trip alone. If you read it this far, thank you. Nah, you're good. She definitely wanted to try to get you to cheat. You did everything right in this situation. I can't even blame you for breaking down crying at multiple points. God knows what I would have done. I probably would have just shut down. Good on you for standing up for yourself. That's really what the important part is. You didn't overreact. You didn't make a fool of yourself. You didn't make a scene of yourself. You did exactly what you had to do. And honestly, your boyfriend should be fucking ecstatic that he has a real one. That's really what it comes down to. Real Vermicelli 7795 called my brother out about his constant jokes. Am I overreacting? Hi, as the title says, I moved out of my narcissistic mother's house and into a house with my brother. Things are more peaceful, but lately, my brother has been telling jokes that trigger me. It's hard to explain, but it consists of repeating something that my mother would tell me. Something usually hurtful. And then he would say, "It was a joke," or "Can you imagine me actually saying something like that to you?" This past week, I got sick, and my brother will ask me, "How are you feeling?" And no matter what I say, he always would say something like, "But you don't feel as bad as I feel," something my mom always said to me. And then he laughs and says, "Can you imagine if I said something like that to you?" I said nothing each time. Today I woke up feeling better, but I'm not 100% recovered. My brother comes up to me and says, "How do you feel?" I told him I'm a little better, but I still feel like resting for the day. He turns around and looks at me and says, "Stop lying about being sick just so you can go lay in bed. Get up and do something around the house, you dramatic baby." And then proceeds to laugh. I literally wanted to cry because those are my mom's words. The exact words that she used every time one of us got sick, no matter how sick we were or how young. I remember the first time she said it to me, I was like 8 years old. I have mentioned plenty of times to him that my mom's guilt trip is one of my biggest triggers, so I can't understand why he would think it's okay to joke with. I decided to say something, saying I didn't think it was a joke to just repeat the stuff my mom used to say to us all the fucking time. It hurts me. My brother said, "Oh God, it's just me saying it so you wouldn't be hurt. It's just jokes." Am I overreacting? Okay, yes and no, because it sounds like your brother is also dealing with shit too and you both need therapy. Sometimes joking like this is one's way of dealing with trauma. Sounds like he has a lot of trauma attached to it too and is also incredibly hurt by your mother's actions. My guess would be is that him repeating these are him trying to mutually cope with you, but half of the part of telling a joke is understanding your audience and if they actually will enjoy the material you're presenting. And in this case, him coping with the fact that he's probably been told by his mother multiple times, "Oh, you're just a big dramatic baby." He's probably repeating that to you in a sense of trying to give you like that mutual sense of, "I understand what you're going through. Wasn't it fucked up what our mom did?" And you, having a different sense of humor, just doesn't appreciate that. And that's really what it comes down to is communication. I don't think your brother is actively trying to make you feel upset. I think he's just trying to bond with you over your mutual fucked up experience with your mother, essentially downplaying any kind of pain you all had growing up. I do think that he should 100% respect your request to minimize that kind of joking, if not entirely cut it all out. But I am saying that you should recognize that those jokes are coming from somewhere of your own brother's trauma, more than likely. I might be wrong though, and I would love to hear some more input in the comments. Pure Ordinary 59. Am I overreacting about my husband cutting our toddler's hair? Our 2-year-old son had beautiful blonde shoulder-length hair. My husband and I would comment on a daily basis how pretty he was and wonder where in the family genes it came from since neither of us have hair like this. Aside from being pretty, our son seems to like his hair too. He spends a lot of time switching it around and giggling. I would trim the ends semi-regularly to keep it from looking too unkempt, but it's a bit tricky to do with a wiggly toddler who, understandably, doesn't like scissors near his face. Tonight, my husband went up to him with a pair of kitchen shears to clean up the ends and cut it all off. I gasped, I was speechless, and eventually squeaked out a sad, "I can't believe you just did that." Our son looks like an entirely different kid now, and I'm devastated that my husband took it upon himself to totally change our son's appearance in the blink of an eye. I tried to keep my composure by repeating, "It's just hair, it'll grow back, it's just hair," in my head, but eventually I left the room to have to cry. My husband found me upset and got angry, saying that I'm being irrational and he doesn't need his wife's approval to cut his son's hair the way he wants to. Ooh. I know a big part of my feelings comes from the fact that he looks so much older now. He looks like a little man and not a baby anymore, and that's obviously hard as a parent. Ultimately, I know it doesn't really matter if internet strangers think I'm overreacting because my feelings are valid to me either way. But do any other parents feel attached to their young children's hair, especially a sudden first major haircut? Or am I being a giant weirdo? Edit to add some additional info I've added in the comments, but they have gotten buried. My husband never expressed before that he disliked our son's hair. He would also call it beautiful and pretty. If he always wanted it this way, that was never shared with me before. Our son is nonverbal, so unfortunately, I don't know his opinion on his hair, but he's almost definitely still too young to care. At most, he will miss swishing it around. I intentionally did not cry over hair or appear upset in front of my son. Nor did I stomp around or slam doors to get attention. I quietly left the room to process my feelings on my own. I am in marriage therapy. My husband doesn't think we need it, so he does not come to sessions. He came to one session early on where he expressed all of our problems are my issues, not his. He has agreed to come to the session next week. So as someone who has long hair right now because my father used to give me buzz cuts when I was younger, the kid is definitely going to miss the hair. The fact that your husband is willing to go to therapy is a major step forward. I think him cutting the hair is a minor thing. He's a guy. Long hair on guys is usually socially unacceptable, so he's probably just thinking, well, you're almost 3. You're almost a man now. Legos aren't free. Time to cut your hair. So he went at it with the scissors. But I think the problem here is actually his reaction to you. I think that is definitely something that needs to be talked about in marriage therapy. Now, I'm not going to give the usual Reddit where something mildly frustrating happens or potentially signs of a red flag or worse things to come and just immediately say, leave that man, send him to the curb. That's not what we're going to do here. I think marriage counseling is the right choice. I think you got to talk about him. But I really do think that he needs to start going to marriage counseling because him just stating that everything was your problem and never going back, that is not good. Dark Blue Eska. Am I overreacting for being weirded out about a date wanting us to background check each other? I've been on 2 dates with a girl I met recently. Very tame dates. We're still very much figuring out who the other person is. In fact, I don't even think we've physically touched. Not even the slightest brush of shoulders. That's how tame it has been and how much I've been keeping my distance. She's out of town this weekend and I texted her something like, next time we get together, we'll have to do something that gives us more of a chance to talk. She sent back that she had a strange idea for something to do together. Her idea was to take a concealed weapons licensing course together. I was completely taken aback and kind of speechless. I'm not a gun guy. I have not even the smallest interest in this. And I really don't think dating and guns are a good mix. I told her guns are pretty much the last thing that would ever help me feel closer to another person. She got a little flustered and explained that she'd always had an interest in personal safety and self-defense and thought it would give us a chance to clear the other's background. So, to run a background check on each other, basically. I haven't responded yet. I think her explanation is even more insane than the initial proposal. I was maybe going to just sweep it under the rug and then the explanation just dug the hole even deeper. Do people actually run background checks on each other after a date or 2 now? This is what dating is? I am personally really weirded out and have been completely turned off of continuing seeing this person. It seems to me like she might have listened to a few too many true crime podcasts and watched maybe a few too many Law & Order SVU episodes. There's nothing in my background that I'm even remotely concerned about someone finding, but the idea that someone thinks it's needed at all after 2 really nice dates with 0 controversy is such a complete turnoff. Can't even put into words how unromantic this whole thing is. But it's been a long time since I started a new relationship and I'm kind of an old-fashioned weirdo, so maybe I'm overreacting and I just don't know how dating works in 2024. What do you think? Am I nuts or is this request as wild as I think it is? Edit after reactions. It does seem like the prevailing opinion is that this is a big overreaction on my part, so I'm going to take the L and adjust my way of thinking. Admittedly, most of the people I've dated in the past either knew me before or knew someone who could vouch for me. So this situation where we aren't well acquainted and they need to clear me is not something I have encountered a lot. Women have told me they've looked me up, but I don't think any have told me about doing an actual background check, so I don't know how common it was or how easy it is for people to do. That was definitely something I needed to hear. I appreciate everyone who told me that this is a standard practice and how necessary it is for women to ensure their safety. I was not informed enough on this issue. For what it's worth, I've already texted her back and told her that if she'd like to clear my history, I think she should feel free to just run a check straight up. Since the check for the CCW certification would probably not be quick or tell her the info she'd want to know anyway. I'm a boring dude with nothing to hide, so she can lay it all bare if she wants. Whatever she needs to feel safe. Still not interested in carrying concealed, and I definitely think it's an unusual date idea, but it probably took her a lot of courage to propose it, especially not knowing how I felt about guns. So there's no reason for me to hold it against her. I'm just gonna write this off as an overreaction on my part and see where it goes from here. Good on the guy for being willing to readjust his views. I do think it can be a bit jarring with the standards of, providing a background check, as women oftentimes want to feel safe and make sure they're not dating a psychopath, and I do feel like it should go both ways. If I were to guess, I think she rolled the dice as like, oh, he's a guy, he probably will like guns, so maybe we can kind of just get this out of the way super quickly by making it a fun little date idea instead of an awkward background check. I think she was trying to just like meet in the middle ground, but made the incorrect gamble on whether or not you were into guns or not. I think that's pretty much what this was, but background checks are incredibly important. Pretty Detective 250. I got into a fist fight with my sister's boyfriend at her baby shower. Oh boy. I, 31 female, attended my younger sister's, let's say Emma, 26 female's baby shower this past weekend, thrown by our mother. Emma is pregnant with her first child and was glowing as the center of attention. However, her boyfriend / baby daddy, Kyle, 26 male, was being a total jackass the entire time. Kyle showed up late, reeking of beer, and started hitting on, overtly flirting with several of the other female guests right in front of Emma. When she confronted him about his inappropriate behavior, he laughed it off and called her a hormonal pregnant bitch. I could see Emma tearing up, trying to keep it together. Later, Kyle was running his stupid mouth again, making lewd jokes about Emma's pregnancy body and how her boobs looked ready to lactate. That was the final straw for me, so I grabbed Kyle and dragged him outside to have a word with him in private about respecting my sister. He responded by shoving me hard against the side of the house. That's when I lost it. I punched him square in the face, which set off an all-out brawl between us. Fists were flying and we were grappling on the ground, completely destroying Mom's garden and the patio furniture in the process. The fight ended when Emma came out crying hysterically and sprayed us both with a hose to break it up. The shower was ruined and Emma went into early labor from the stress and had to go to the hospital, and my face was bruised. My mom and Emma are saying that I overreacted for starting a violent fight at a baby shower and potentially putting the baby's health at risk with the drama, but I feel like I was just defending my sister's honor from her piece of shit boyfriend. Kyle struck me first after all. Am I in the wrong here? No, Kyle hit you first. That is the fundamental part of this. Kyle came in drunk, upset your sister, was being a fucking creep, and when you asked to talk about him about his behavior, he hit you first. I feel horrendous for your sister because that man is not going to be a good father, and it's absolutely upsetting that because of Kyle's actions, not yours, that Emma went into early labor. That's very unfortunate. Nessie KD. Am I overreacting? My sister tried to scare my son for fun, and now he can't use the bathroom at night. My sister, 39 female, was trying to tease my 8-year-old son by telling him that a moose was tall enough to put his head through the window in the bathroom, where the only window faces the woods. Now, my son is too afraid at night to use the bathroom because he's worried about a moose putting his head through the window. We live in New Hampshire, where we see moose all the time. I saw a baby today which was about 6 feet tall even as a baby. We once had one in my front yard. I live in the woods, I'm outside of a small town, so I can't tell him that there are no moose because, well, there are. We had to bury a dead one who dropped dead just down the street, so I don't know what to tell him to set his mind at ease. I'm so pissed because it's not the first time that my sister has done this. She told him that the toilet will also overflow every time he goes number 2 as well. So he never flushes the toilet out of fear that it's going to overflow. I want her to stop trying to scare my son because it's making me absolutely crazy. Update, I called my sister and went mama bear on her about the teasing. She was very upset to hear that she scared him so badly. She talked to him on the phone and said sorry and told him that she was not serious. He laughed a little reluctantly and called her silly, but he's still a little bit scared. I think he's not sure if she's telling the truth. After, she told me she would come over tomorrow and try to help me show him that there's nothing to fear. My sister is very outgoing and boisterous and brave. I'm a bit more timid like my son, so I'm happy that I'll have her support. If anyone can show him how to be brave, it's her. I also wanted to mention that my sister is currently pregnant for the first time. I have 3 boys, 16, 9, and 8. It was my youngest that I was talking about in this post. She's looking to me a lot more lately for advice, and she's been spending a lot of time with my kids to prepare herself and us for her arrival. We love to fawn over her and talk about the new cousin they will have, so I don't want to cut her off. She's a really good sister and aunt. She's just learning. I have faith that she will take my heartfelt plea for her to be a little bit more aware of her audience. My 2 older boys love her jokes and aren't scared by them, but my youngest is a little bit different. He is my cautious boy, and it may be because I baby him, but he is my baby. I know it's not an excuse, and I'm offering my very honest explanation. I've enjoyed all the replies and suggestions. Thank you all for your help. I am definitely thinking about all the things said. You've really helped me figure this out. I appreciate you all. Much love, Vanessa. I'm glad this one had a happy ending because from the very first paragraph, I kind of had the feeling that sister had, no intention of accidentally traumatizing the children and just wanted to have a good time. I mean, moose are hulking monstrosities of a monster, so I can definitely see why there'd be a little bit of uncomfortability with having those freaks of nature around. Like, if you've ever seen a moose in person, they are huge. Like, those things should not exist, fundamentally. So I can kind of understand from the aunt's perspective of, oh, a moose is just an animal, but from the child, that is like a walking leviathan of a monstrosity that just lurks in the woods. The aunt didn't tell him that like a xenomorph or Jason or the Predator from the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies was out there waiting to get him. It was something that was just a common piece of wildlife and probably could have even been as simple as a fun fact as, oh yeah, no, moose are just big as hell. Yeah, they definitely could put their head through the window in the bathroom. Just as a joking tone, and it does sound like that she has realized, the mistakes of her actions that were unbeknownst to her and has taken the steps to properly alleviate that. And that's really all you can ask for in this situation, because I don't think that she was maliciously trying to scare the children. What the hell is up with these names? Dejunder H2O. Dejunder H2O. There we go. Took a second. Am I overreacting because my friends with 3 kids said my kidless opinion doesn't matter? My lifelong friend has 3 kids. I have none, by choice. When discussing a new family car for his wife, I said brand XYZ have great crash and safety ratings. His reply was, talk to me when you have kids, as if I'm incapable of knowing what cars are rated well for safety without having a child. I wanted to say, okay, and hang up on him. I know he really didn't mean it how I'm taking it, but am I overreacting? Sure, edit. Thanks everyone. The conversation wasn't centered on cars. He was talking about Subarus. His wife has a Forester. I mentioned Toyotas and Hondas in general, and when I said Hondas have high safety ratings, he gave me that reply. I passed it off and the call naturally ended in 5 minutes. While I honestly think this conversation doesn't fully matter because Toyotas, Hondas, and Subarus have a very equivalent safety rating just across the board, like they're just safe cars and they're great family cars in general. Only thing I would say is I think Honda technically has better technology, but that's besides the point. I think it was kind of gross for him just to chalk off your opinion by saying, talk to me when you have kids. I think that dismissing an entire opinion is kind of a little fucked up. You did not react. You didn't overreact here. You had the temporary want to end the conversation, but you did not. So you did not overreact. You had the intention to possibly overreact, but you did not. And that's kind of where this ends. Am I overreacting for getting annoyed that my friend won't acknowledge me trying to help? So my best friend asked out the person she liked yesterday during lunch, and he said there was no hard feelings, he just wasn't ready for a relationship. We're in high school, by the way. She got really upset and wouldn't talk to anyone until the end of the day, where she seemed to be a bit better. She did the same thing today, just completely quiet, and every time I tried to help, she just ignored me. She may not want my help and everything, which is why I'm posting this. I usually go into her classroom during 7th passing period because it's just up the hall from mine. I tried to talk to her, ask her if she wanted a hug, if she wanted me to do anything, etc., and she wouldn't even look at me. I'm a very low empathy person, so I probably don't understand this right. To me, it's not a big deal, and it's not something to cry over and withdraw from everyone, but I don't know if that's how you're supposed to feel. Am I overreacting for getting a bit annoyed? Edit, I'm not trying to make this about me. Ugh, I'm trying to see if she needs help. I don't know, man. You said you're not trying to make this about you, but you ended it with, am I overreacting for getting a bit annoyed? So I can definitely see why people would assume that you're making this about you. Yes, I do think you're overreacting for getting annoyed with your friend who's currently in a lot of emotional turmoil because their crush rejected them. That is normal human behavior. It's gonna take them a bit of time to recover. That's just what it is. There's a pretty good chance that she's emotionally devastated because she asked someone out, got rejected, and is also probably embarrassed and doesn't want people to see her. And you're out here kind of trying to be a supportive friend, which is good. But if she needs space, she needs space. It's just one of those things where it's gonna take time for the brain to process all those chemicals and hormones. And she's also got to deal with you going onto Reddit asking if you're overreacting because you're annoyed with their behavior. I don't know. That feels a little odd. I'd be curious for audience input on this one, because these are high schoolers. I don't want to be too mean, or you do have the title being, "Am I overreacting for getting annoyed that my friend won't acknowledge me trying to help?" So it sounds like you're more upset about the fact that your friend isn't acknowledging that you're doing a good deed or something. I don't know, your reasoning is all over the place. Maybe someone can shine a better light on this because I'm getting mixed messages here. Happy Panda 6500. Am I overreacting to the fact that my boyfriend told me he was too busy to start dinner? After 5 years of remote work, I got a new job, an amazing job, making much more. However, I have to go into an office. My boyfriend still gets to work at home. I knew this would be an adjustment for the both of us. I've done my best to prep things to make his transition as seamless as possible. My boyfriend said he would help me with little things now that I'm in the office. I do all of the cooking and have asked him multiple questions to gauge what he would be willing to help with, so I could plan meals accordingly. For 2 days now, I have asked if on Thursday when I was leaving work, he would just start boiling the potatoes for me. He said yes. He said just text him what he needed to do when I was leaving. Today I texted him, letting him know I was on my way home and asked, "Would you be so kind to preheat the oven and boil the potatoes? I'll do the rest." He responded, "I'm busy." I said, "Okay, never mind." When I got home, I started the potatoes, preheated the oven, and went up to check on him. We said hi and made small talk, and I asked him why he didn't help me when he said he would. He then said he's not a homemaker and I'm the one who chose the office job and I needed to figure it out. And I reminded him that I asked him multiple times if he would help, and he said he would. He told me he was busy with something he couldn't take the time to help me. I then brought up all the times I took a pause at my old stay-at-home job to help him, and he said, "I'm the breadwinner. You could take breaks. My job is more demanding." I was pretty pissed and didn't say anything and went back to making dinner and took him a plate. After dinner, I told him I felt like he owed me an apology, to which he said I was overreacting and leaving a pot of boiling water unintended was a fire safety hazard, which is why he didn't do it. I think he's being a dick, but I'm here for a third-party opinion. Am I overreacting? Adding info, I'm not a man-hating feminist as the people who have DM'd me have said. I don't mind traditional gender roles and do the majority of the cooking and cleaning. However, I would like help, as a fellow human and also respect. This is my biggest issue here. Yeah, no, you're fine. I don't think you're overreacting at all. He said he would help you, he didn't, and then he kind of belittled you in the process. Yeah, you have every right to be upset. A relationship takes both parties putting equal effort in to make it work, and he's not. Honestly, I don't even think the problem that you have with this situation is the fact that he didn't cook the potatoes, it's the reaction that he had to being confronted about it. Because if he was genuinely busy and was like, "Hey, sorry love, something came up and it just took a lot of concentration and time," I feel like that would have been a very different conversation than, "I'm the breadwinner, my job is more demanding." Especially when you're coming home after a day at an actual office job, not a stay-at-home job, so there's a bit of a different dynamic now. Even if he is the sole breadwinner, you're still having a longer day with the commute, and the least he could do is preheat the oven, which isn't a fire hazard, and putting a pot of water on the stove top. And I'm not buying that fire hazard excuse. That just, to me, as an adult who's used a stove a lot in my life, this just sounds like weaponized incompetence. Casa Mijer, am I overreacting to my husband driving into a water crossing and flooding our car? I'm 32 female and my husband, 33 male, went on a spur-of-the-moment camping trip with our 2 sons, 6 and 2.5. I stayed behind to work late and catch up on some projects. On the way there, he says he crossed a water crossing in the road. On the way back the next day, he said he tried to cross the same water crossing and it was deep. The water went over the wheels and into the car, terrifying my 6-year-old. Our car, our only vehicle, doesn't work now. My husband was not fully honest with me about the amount of water damage until they made it home. I then learned from my oldest that water was filling the car and up to his calves. My car is now fully dead and will cost a lot of money to repair if it is even salvageable. We don't have extra money because my husband was out of work for 18 of the past 24 months. I am upset that he endangered our children, that he lied about the severity of what happened, and that I'm now going to have to patchwork transportation for the foreseeable future to figure out how to get to work and my kids to daycare. I am angry and can barely speak to him. This also comes after he said he didn't need to take a defensive driving class that I suggested because I felt like he was overestimating his skills and our car's ability in taking unnecessary risks. I know that accidents and mistakes happen, but this is after years of having to pay for the consequences of his mistakes. I don't know if I can keep doing this. So, am I overreacting? Well, to me, from the ending there, it sounds like he's done a lot of more stupid shit that's not just this here. Defensive driving isn't gonna fix stupid mistakes. This is just careless. That's just all this is. I mean, even if Like, you guys don't need to total the car. You're gonna have water damage, it's gonna cause smell, you're gonna have mold problems. God knows what's gonna happen with the electrical. Those problems are never gonna go away. Then you're gonna have damage to the engine bay, to possibly the wheel wells, and who knows what else is gonna have water damage. The fact that water was inside means you're gonna have mold problems. And, insurance companies normally just total out cars that do get flooded. That's pretty common practice. That's assuming, of course, you did report it to insurance and you're not paying out of pocket, because who knows if insurance would actually cover this kind of mistake or not. Plus, I know for a damn fact that they would definitely increase your premiums if you even dared to mention this to them. And this isn't even getting to the fact that he did endanger your children, because the car got stuck in the middle of driving through the water and kept on flooding. With your 2.5-year-old being in a booster seat with the car actively flooding, that could have been very bad. So yeah, not overreacting in the slightest. This could have gone very bad. Thankfully it didn't. Thankfully everything went pretty well. Even though the car was flooded, your husband probably needs to get a job, because he can't keep making boneheaded mistakes if he keeps doing this, because it sounds like this isn't the first time he's made a very expensive mistake while off of work, and I feel for you. Starshine Blues. Am I overreacting for moving out because my dad's girlfriend won't discipline her son? I, female 19, live with my dad, my brother, male 14, my dad's girlfriend Casey, and Casey's son, 9 male. Without getting into personal stuff, I don't live here as my dad's adult daughter. I'm more of a roommate than anything else. Anyways, Casey's son is out of control. He throws tantrums like a toddler when he doesn't get his way, screaming, crying, stomping, and slamming doors. He also spends hours on end screaming at video games. I cannot handle the screaming, and Casey refuses to do anything about it because it's just too difficult for her to discipline her child. She's a pushover and refuses to change her ways. So last night, I told her kid that he needed to be quiet. I had been listening to non-stop screaming for a solid 15 minutes. Cue Casey coming into the hallway and telling me that I'm just going to have to deal with her son being loud because that's just what 9-year-olds do. Pardon my ignorance, but when has it ever been acceptable for children to scream inside of the house? I was told to use my inside voice whenever I got too loud, and from what I understand, so was everyone else. So, I'm moving out. I'm going to live with my grandparents, and I gave my dad 3 months notice. And now, he has to figure out how he's going to make up the difference without my rent money. Am I overreacting by moving out even though my dad said they can't afford to keep living here without my rent money? Edit to clarify a few things. Casey financially contributes. I gave 3 months notice because that's what my dad asked for. I know that isn't standard, 30 days is. I want to give him enough time to come up with the money so that they don't all have to move after I leave. This is mainly because I don't want my younger brother to have to move again right before he starts high school. Edit 2. I can't bring my brother with me, I can't afford to take him with me. And also, my bio mom and dad have split custody. Legally, my brother has to keep living with my dad half of the time. So this one is a night and day difference from the previous one that we had yesterday with the 20-year-old brother shaming his sister and his 5-year-old son, because this is a 9-year-old. A 9-year-old should in most cases know better. This is definitely a different situation, because on top of that, OP is more solution focused and trying to look at a way to make life better for them without shaming others around them. They're actively looking at moving out, and in fact they're giving their father 3 months notice that they're moving out. That is crazy. I think they're being perfectly reasonable. They're not overreacting at all. They, in one situation that we're aware of, there might be more going on of course, but they asked the 9-year-old son to, hey, you've been screaming for 15 minutes, could you please use your inside voice? Only to then be scolded by Casey, the child's mother, because it's just what 9-year-olds do. I definitely wasn't screaming inside when I was 9 years old. I was playing with Bionicles. But I think this is a reasonable reaction, and this is night and day difference compared to the one that we had yesterday in the r/am I the devil. So, I'd like to hear what you all think. What a small bird. Am I overreacting for being upset that my neighbor with disabilities stole everything off my balcony? I'm currently moving out of my old upstairs apartment into a small mother-in-law MIL unit. I have until June 9th to get everything out, but I am now living full-time in the mother-in-law unit. In the old apartment building, there is a woman, calling her the woman from now on, who is 40, who has some developmental disabilities and a live-in caretaker, calling her the caretaker. They live in the front area of the building downstairs from me. I can look over my balcony and see inside their fenced-off patio with how the building is designed. I've always been cordial with them, saying hi, how are you, etc. And last week I was chatting with neighbors and the on-site manager about moving. The woman comes out and is asking me if I'm moving and where and how old I am. I answer. The downstairs neighbor for me tells me all the issues she's had with the woman threatening to kill her, slamming doors to the laundry room, screaming at people with the caretaker just watching her do these things. I just think, oh, wow, that's wild, but I'm leaving, so who cares? Today, I go back to the apartment to grab something, and I see my balcony items are gone. A lounge chair, mini glass table, an over-the-railing planter, and over a dozen cute planter pots. I look around to see where they may have went and see my stuff in the women's patio. She's always commented on my flowers and how much she likes them, and now I'm upset. I go downstairs and knock on the door. The woman answers with the caretaker behind her. I sternly say, "Why are my things in your patio?" And the woman starts tearing up and hiding behind the caretaker. Caretaker is the only one talking to me. She continues that, "Oh, we thought you left," and the woman said that the manager here said we can take the stuff and you can't be mad at her because I helped take the stuff too. I said, "The manager certainly didn't because he knows I'm here until June 9th, so I don't know who told you that." And the caretaker starts chastising me saying, "Okay, well she has disabilities and you should take this as a learning experience." And I cut her off, saying, "I'm not learning shit from this. I just want the stuff you both stole from me and I'm just putting it in my car, so don't worry about my balcony." And the caretaker is continuing that I need to learn that other people don't perceive things the same and I shouldn't yell and I should be nice. And I'm just telling her that I straight up do not care, and even if I abandon stuff at the apartment, it's still not theirs, so there's no excuse to walk onto someone's balcony and take things. Eventually, I get all my stuff and I put it in my car. Another neighbor comes out and is pissed that the caretaker helped the woman steal from me, and they should be glad I didn't press charges for theft. I just left after. I filed a complaint in my apartment's online portal, and I feel bad that the woman started crying, but I don't know if I overreacted. On one hand, yeah, she's got disabilities and such, but on the other, her caretaker openly told me she helped steal the items and theft is theft, so am I overreacting? No, you're not overreacting. This is actually insane. Your problem here is not the woman with a disability, as the caretaker gaslit you to believe. It's the caretaker. My opinion is, from the way that you've described it, the caretaker is actively using the women's disabilities as a way for them to get away with random shit, and essentially using it as a shield so that way you can't do anything about it and can guilt you. That's the way that this comes off to me. I would really love to hear audience input on this one, because in my eyes, this does feel like the caretaker is actively abusing and using this person with a developmental disorder to get away with random shit like this. Typhon M5. I threatened to quit if coworkers don't stop vaping around me. Am I overreacting? So, I don't know the effects of inhaling nicotine secondhand. Honestly, it could be harmless, but I don't have the energy or the desire to do some research. My job is very flexible, meaning that employees can step outside to smoke or vape as many times as they want. But there are employees who don't bother stepping outside and choose to vape inside instead. I told my manager that if they don't stop, I will have to put in my 2 weeks notice. He reacted a bit shocked and asked me if I'm not taking things a bit too far. I said I love my job, but my health comes before everything. The thing is, my bosses definitely love me and they are not willing to lose me, which means that I'm gonna have a few coworkers pissed at me. Do you guys think I'm overreacting? As a quick backstory, when I was in high school, vaping was becoming popular, and a lot of high schoolers were able to get their hands on vapes, usually secondhand or from other sources, and there was a whole kind of black market dealing going on. This was also when the age to buy nicotine was 18, so oftentimes the seniors would go out and buy vape jewel pods and sell them to other high schoolers, and massive black market pretty much. I never vaped, but a lot of kids would vape in class, so I'm kind of used to it. But at the time, there was no research to suggest that there was any harm to it, so I didn't mind it at the time. But recently, there is new research that suggests that the vape aerosols that are produced from vaping can actually be harmful to lungs. Granted, not nearly as bad as tobacco cigarettes, but it still does put your lungs at risk. This is actually new research that I was entirely unaware of. So I think it is definitely fair for you to be concerned about the effects on you from inhaling their vape juice. But just know they're probably gonna be upset with you. They're probably gonna be in a position where it's like, oh, look, here comes Mr. Killjoy over here, walking back into work. Everyone put your vapes away. So you're gonna be seen as a killjoy in the office or environment where you're working at. I am not saying that your concerns are invalid or you have invalid reasoning. I'm just trying to be kind of blunt and honest with you here. You probably will be put in a position very soon where it's going to be, is the risks of vaping worth keeping this job? And that's gonna have to be a question you need to ask yourself. You need to do the research, you need to look into it. If you just full stop, don't even care, there's a risk, gotta leave this job, go for it. But if I'm gonna be honest with you here, I don't really think there's a chance or a reasonable way for you to get your coworkers to stop vaping inside. I just genuinely think that might be out of the question. AHG220, am I overreacting because my partner is a half-ass cleaner? As the title suggests, my partner half-asses cleaning. We split our household cleaning duties 50-50, but without fail, his half is poorly done. Cleans around things and not under, doesn't use enough cleaning product on the stove, so grease is just spread around, etc. This infuriates me to no end. I admit to not being the tidiest person and can leave things out at times, which he points out, but I have a really hard time with dirt. I work 50 hours a week and he averages 8 to 10. He owns 2 rental properties as most of his income. Today, he wasn't working and said he would clean our condo. Turns out, he only cleaned his half and left me to do mine, saying that cleaning wasn't his priority for the day. The last 2 weekends, I happily offered to clean everything so he could watch the NBA playoffs. Needless to say, today I was pissed. We got into a disagreement about this and he ended up cleaning the kitchen, but in his typical half-assed manner. The reason this all makes me so angry is that his shitty cleaning represents more work for me and I feel like he's disrespecting my time. Did I overreact by voicing my frustrations? So I too really understand drawing the line at dirt. For me, it's food stuff and dirt. Food in dirt are, if I find any of that, like if I'm walking in the kitchen and I step and I feel like crumbs or something, the entire kitchen is getting deep cleaned that day because that kind of stuff is where I draw a hard line. Now, I'll admit, I can also be a little bit messy in terms of leaving things out because oftentimes the spaces that I'm in, they're more of a lived-in mess, where if I spent maybe 5 to 10 minutes, it would be perfectly clean, everything would be put away and organized, but just because of ADHD, when I take something out and do something, oftentimes I'm not sure if I'm going to come back to it, so it just kind of gets left out, and then I take care of it like in a couple weeks because I'm really bad about that, but it's never a mess that I can't just spend 5 minutes when I need to and getting it all cleaned up, if that makes sense. Personally, if I was living with someone, and this is hypothetical, who just wiped grease around and didn't actually do their cleaning part, also had their own messes, but pointed out when I asked to do cleaning that, oh well, look at your mess over here, so therefore cleaning is not really needed, I'd be pretty upset. Especially with this individual working 50 hours compared to their partner's 8 to 10, if they said they were going to clean something, especially following a week where I did all of the cleaning while they watched the NBA playoffs and I came home, and if I found them playing like League of Legends or some shit and they only cleaned half the house, I'd be pretty mad. I would actually be pretty upset. A relationship requires 2 people and he's only putting in half the effort. And then that doesn't even get into the like weaponized incompetence that's happening here where he only cleans his half but does it messily where he just grabs a wet damp cloth and runs it over the countertop knowing you'll come back and actually properly clean it so he doesn't have to put the actual work in. This is what I see is happening. I know people do this. And yeah, I don't think you're invalid in the slightest for voicing your concerns. I would like to hope that this man isn't some kind of like grown toddler who just doesn't understand how to clean because that would definitely suck. Considering that he actively just spreads kitchen grease around and calls it good. That's a pretty hard mistake to make because grease is gross. Grease sticks around. If you don't clean grease properly, you'll know because it'll still be there. So it almost feels like he just wipes it around and knows you'll come back around to clean it up. You could also just take the disgruntled parent approach and every time he half-asses the cleaning, just act like he didn't actually do any work and say, hey, I thought you were going to clean the kitchen. So if he says he did, you can show him the grease that's remaining and be like, nope, you didn't. You very clearly did not clean the kitchen. Do it again. Make it absolute hell. You need to make it so that way his half-ass cleaning is more effort than actually doing it right the first time. It's how you teach children. Locker room choir. Boyfriend, 38 male, angrily canceled our vacation. I'm holding him to his word. Am I overreacting? Long story short, my boyfriend, 38, and I, 33, got into an argument this past week and he decided to cancel our vacation we had been planning for 5 months. Boyfriend is the type of person who says mean shit when he's mad. He'll say that I'm not his daughter's parent, and I'm not, I'm infertile, and then ask me to watch her for a week while he's at work. He'll call me a bitch in front of her and say I'm no better than her mother, who's a crackhead. Daughter will even go with me when he's mad, and it's the three of us, so her dad / my boyfriend won't leave me. A couple of days ago, he was getting on to me for being too busy the past couple of days. I had prior engagements and a class I needed to be at since it was the last one of the year. I had told him that I was going to be busy, but I guess he didn't hear it. Somehow, our vacation got brought into it, and this happened right in front of his preteen daughter. He decided to cancel the vacation because he believed we wouldn't be getting along and it would be a miserable 2 weeks. That this vacation was going to be a make or break us trip. It really did hurt my feelings to hear him say that. Very calmly, I replied, "So we're not going on the trip?" To which he replied, "Yep, we're not going. You've got too much responsibility on the farm." So I said, "That's fine. We can celebrate daughter's birthday then since we'll be home." He said he'll do something with her, not me. Before he went back to work, we talked about how I don't like the flip-flopping and how hard it is to keep up with what he says. We also talked about how we're not going because of what he said. Now, a couple days later, he's back at work and acting like he never said we weren't going. He packed his bags and started packing all the supplies we need. He keeps bringing up this vacation like we're still going to go on it, even though we're not. Am I overreacting for holding him to his words? Edit, thank you everyone for the outpouring of support. I know a lot of people will look at this and be like, just leave or he's abusive. And I hear you, but sometimes it's just not that easy. I do find it hilarious that the assumption is that I live with him though. I have my own property and he lives with me. I'm sure I'll catch some flack for this, but he's not always like this, which is what makes it hard. 85% of the times he is loving and being my biggest cheerleader. He helps me with things I can't physically do and will listen to me vent. He also financially supports me. I think holding him to his word is important here because it helps teach him that he can't just make claims and accusations like this and then expect it just to go over everyone's head and act like nothing actually happened. You need to hold his feet to the fire here. And yeah, as you said, it's not that easy. It is a frustration of mine when people talk about how, oh, just leave him. Oh, just do X, Y, and Z. Oh, just do that. It's never that easy. Also, never move in with him. The moment you move in, you're trapped, and it's going to be even harder to leave if you have to. And sure, that traffic light might be green 85% of the time, but you need to keep an eye out for when that red starts becoming more common because sometimes, or a time might come, where it'll change red and never change back, and you need to keep an eye out for that. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.